I loaned my sister $175,000 to save her house. 2 years later, she told everyone I never helped the family and called me selfish. But when she applied for another loan, the bank called. I've always been the responsible one in my family. Let me be crystal clear about something. I grew up dirt poor. Government cheese, food stamps, the works. My parents meant well, but never could get ahead. I put myself through college working 3 jobs, lived on ramen, and built my career from nothing. Now, at 34, I make good money. Very good money. I don't tolerate disrespect, and I don't apologize for my success. My sister Eleanor is 3 years older than me, but might as well be from another planet. While I was working myself to exhaustion, she was accumulating credit card debt and finding herself. She married Brock, who's exactly like her. All flash, no substance. They've always lived beyond their means. Designer clothes, new cars every 2 years, vacations they can't afford. Absolutely unacceptable financial behavior. Despite our differences, I've helped Eleanor more times than I can count. $2,000 for car repairs, $5,000 when Brock lost his job, $8,000 for medical bills when their insurance lapsed. I always told myself it was just temporary assistance. Family helps family, right? But the pattern never changed. They never learned. 2 years ago, Eleanor called me sobbing. They were 6 months behind on their mortgage payments. The bank was foreclosing on their house. They needed $175,000 to catch up and refinance. That's not a typo. $175,000. I didn't want to do it. Every instinct told me not to. But I thought about my niece and nephew living in that house. I thought about family. I agreed to loan them the money with some conditions. Formal loan agreement, reasonable interest rate, monthly payments they could afford. Eleanor agreed to everything, tearfully promising they'd change their ways. I even recorded our conversation about the terms. Something told me I might need it later. Let me be crystal clear. I'm not stupid. I transferred the money. They kept their house. Problem solved. Right? Wrong. Over the next 2 years, I received exactly 3 payments. The first 2 were on time, then nothing for 6 months. Then one random payment with a long text about unexpected expenses and promises to catch up soon. Then nothing for another year and counting. I sent emails, made calls. Eleanor always had excuses. Brock's hours got cut. The kids needed something expensive. Car repairs, medical bills. Meanwhile, their social media told a different story. Tropical vacation, new furniture, expensive restaurant checks, designer clothes for the kids. I documented everything but said nothing. I was biding my time. Last month was our cousin Tessa's wedding. Big family gathering. Everyone together for the first time in ages. I arrived late due to work and was heading to the bar when I overheard Eleanor talking to our Aunt Daphne. I froze when I heard my name. Luis has always been selfish with his money, Eleanor was saying. Must be nice to be swimming in cash while the rest of us struggle. He's never helped the family, not once. All he cares about is himself. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My blood went cold, then hot. The sheer audacity, the breathtaking ingratitude. $175,000 to save her house. Thousands more over the years. All those times I answered her desperate calls while I was working. And this is what she really thought of me. I didn't confront her then. That's not my style. Let me be crystal clear. I document. I plan. I execute. I spent the rest of the wedding observing, noticing things I'd overlooked before. How Eleanor and Brock kept mentioning their financial struggles to anyone who would listen. How they talked about our parents' health issues, positioning themselves as the devoted caregivers. I started connecting dots I should have seen years ago. The next day, I did some digging. Eleanor had been posting in family groups about how hard it was being the only one caring for our parents who I send money to every month, our parents whose medical bills I've paid without question. She'd been systematically painting herself as the struggling, devoted daughter and me as the cold, distant son who abandoned his responsibilities. I checked in with our mother, casually asking about her will. She hesitated before admitting Eleanor had been suggesting changes. To be fair, given how Eleanor does all the work of looking after them, My mother sounded embarrassed, like she knew something wasn't right, but couldn't put her finger on it. Absolutely unacceptable. I spent the next week gathering evidence: bank transfers, text messages, email, the recorded loan agreement, photos from social media showing their lifestyle juxtaposed with their excuses for not repaying me. I created a detailed timeline of every penny I'd given them and every lie they'd told. Then I got a call from a contact at my bank. Eleanor and Brock had applied for another substantial loan. They'd listed me as a reference, claiming I would vouch for their excellent financial responsibility. They'd also drastically inflated their income and hidden their existing debts, including the one to me. That was the final straw. Let me be crystal clear about something. I don't care about the money. I care about the disrespect, the manipulation, the lies, the way they've turned my family against me while taking advantage of my generosity. I'm not going to confront Eleanor directly. That would be too easy, too predictable. She'd cry, make excuses, promise to do better. Then nothing would change. Instead, I've decided on a different approach. I've contacted some associates who specialize in financial investigation. I've spoken with my lawyer about my options for collecting the debt. I've begun documenting every instance of their financial misrepresentations to lending institutions. That's fraud, by the way. This isn't about the money anymore. It's about consequences. Eleanor chose to take my money, refuse to repay it, and then slander me to our entire family. She made that choice. Now I'm making mine. I don't feel guilty about what I'm planning. Not even a little. Some people might call it harsh or excessive. I call it justice. You don't get to take advantage of me and walk away unscathed. That's not how this works. Tomorrow, I meet with my lawyer to set everything in motion. Eleanor has no idea what's coming, but she will, soon. Let me be crystal clear. I don't enjoy this. I didn't want things to go this way, but I will not be disrespected. I will not be used, and I absolutely will not let her lies stand. I'll update when there's more to share. This is just the beginning. Update. It's been 3 weeks since my last post. Thank you for the overwhelming support. I've read every comment, and while I appreciate the advice about taking the high road and family reconciliation, let me be crystal clear. That ship has sailed. The morning after my last post, I received a strange email notification. One of my banking contacts had flagged something for my attention. Eleanor and Brock had listed me as a reference on another loan application. Not just any loan, a $250,000 home equity line of credit on the house I had already saved with my $175,000. The application contained several interesting details. Their claimed household income, nearly double what I know they actually make. Outstanding debts, mysteriously about $200,000 less than reality. And the most fascinating part, the purpose of the loan was listed as home renovations and debt consolidation. I sat at my desk, staring at the document, feeling an odd sense of calm. This wasn't just about the money anymore. This was about the systematic dishonesty, the calculated deception, the absolute refusal to live within reality. I made 3 calls that morning. First, to my banking contact, providing detailed documentation of the actual loan I had given them, the one they had barely repaid, along with evidence of their true financial situation. I didn't explicitly suggest rejecting their application. I simply ensured the bank had accurate information. Let me be crystal clear. I'm not responsible for what happens when the truth comes to light. Second, to a private investigator I've worked with before, I authorized a complete financial and personal investigation into Eleanor and Brock. Cost was no object. Third, to my attorney, to discuss options for collecting my debt and protecting my interests going forward. Then I waited. 4 days later, the PI sent his first report. What I discovered made my blood boil. Eleanor and Brock weren't just financially irresponsible, they were actively fraudulent. They had taken out multiple credit cards in our elderly parents' names. They had borrowed money from our Aunt Daphne that she didn't know about by accessing her accounts while helping with her banking. They had even set up a GoFundMe for supposed medical expenses last year that were actually covered by insurance. The $15,000 raised went toward a luxury cruise. Absolutely unacceptable. The report also contained information about Brock's extracurricular activities, specifically his regular Thursday meetings with someone named Tatum at a hotel downtown. The same Tatum who recently received a $3,200 bracelet purchased on one of the fraudulent credit cards in my mother's name. The PI included photographs, receipts, text message transcripts, everything. I didn't feel the satisfaction I expected, just cold determination. The bank formally rejected Eleanor's loan application the following week. I knew because she called me 17 times that day. I didn't answer. She left increasingly frantic voicemails, evolving from casual, "Hey, just checking in," to tearful pleas for help because they were in a really tough spot. I listened to each one without emotion. When the last voicemail mentioned that they might lose the house if they couldn't get some cash quickly, I made another call to a real estate investment contact. Let me be crystal clear about my intention. I wasn't acting on impulse. This was calculated. I had the investment group purchase the mortgage on Eleanor's house from the bank, a completely legal transaction that happens all the time. The bank was happy to offload a potentially problematic loan. My investor received a reasonable return, and I gained complete control over the situation. Eleanor didn't know, of course, not yet. All she knew was that her loan had been rejected and that I wasn't returning her calls. 2 days later, she showed up at my office. The receptionist informed me Eleanor was insisting on seeing me, claiming a family emergency. I had security escort her out. She caused a scene, screaming about how I was abandoning family in their time of need. My colleagues were uncomfortable. I was unmoved. That night, the text messages began, first from Eleanor, then from Brock, then from various family members. Apparently, Eleanor had told everyone I was refusing to help them through a medical crisis. There was no medical crisis. The PI confirmed they were simply drowning in debt from their own choices. I sent a brief, factual message to the family members who had contacted me. I loaned Eleanor and Brock $175,000 2 years ago to save their house. They have repaid less than $5,000 while continuing to take luxury vacations and make expensive purchases. I'm happy to provide documentation. Please don't contact me about this again. The responses were illuminating. Some family members backed off immediately, apologizing for bothering me. Others doubled down, insisting that family helps family no matter what, and that I was being cruel. I blocked the latter group without hesitation. A week passed. The PI continued his investigation, uncovering more financial deceptions. Eleanor had been fired from her job 6 months ago for borrowing from the company accounts. Brock had a gambling problem that was worse than I imagined. They had taken out a third mortgage on their house that they hadn't disclosed to the bank on their recent loan application. That's felony fraud. Their credit cards were maxed out. Their car payments were 3 months behind. And through it all, they continued to post on social media about their blessed life and their upcoming summer vacation plan. I compiled everything into a comprehensive file: financial records, legal documents, social media posts contradicting their claims of hardship, evidence of fraud, evidence of the affair, everything. Then I made my move. Through the investment company, I sent a formal notice that their mortgage had been purchased by new owners who were reviewing all accounts. Due to evidence of application fraud and non-payment, the full balance would need to be brought current within 30 days, or foreclosure proceedings would begin. The picket was immediate. Eleanor called me 23 times in 2 hours. I finally answered. She was hysterical, explaining about the notice, begging for help, claiming they would be homeless, that the children would suffer. I listened in silence until she ran out of breath. Then I asked one question. Did she remember telling our Aunt Daphne that I had never helped the family? That I was selfish with my money? Her hesitation told me everything. She started to make excuses, to claim she was just venting, that it wasn't what it seemed. I hung up. Then I sent her an email with a single attachment, a recording of her conversation with Aunt Daphne at the wedding, the one where she claimed I had never helped the family, the one that had started all of this. 10 minutes later, she called again. This time her tone had changed. She admitted what she'd said was wrong. She was sorry. She hadn't meant it. She was just jealous of my success. She would tell everyone the truth. She would do anything if I would just help them again. For a moment, just a moment, I felt a twinge of doubt. Were my actions too harsh? Was I going too far? Then I remembered the GoFundMe money that paid for their cruise while they claimed medical hardship, the credit cards in my parents' names, the systematic campaign to paint me as the villain while they robbed the family blind, the $175,000 that I would likely never see again. Let me be crystal clear. Consequences are not revenge. Consequences are reality. I told Eleanor I would consider helping on one condition: a family meeting, everyone present, full financial transparency, complete honesty about everything, the loan, the repayments, the lies, all of it. She agreed immediately, desperately. We scheduled it for Saturday at our parents' house. Eleanor seemed relieved, thankful even. She thought I was offering a lifeline. She had no idea what was actually coming. Tonight, I'm reviewing all the documentation one final time. Tomorrow, our entire family will learn exactly who Eleanor and Brock really are. They'll see the evidence of fraud, deception, and betrayal. They'll understand the magnitude of what I've been dealing with, and Eleanor will finally face the consequences of her choices. Let me be crystal clear about one thing. I'm not doing this for revenge. I'm doing this because some people only learn through pain. Eleanor has spent her entire life manipulating others and avoiding responsibility. Tomorrow, that ends. I'll update again after the family meeting. Things are about to get very interesting. Update 2. The morning of the family meeting, I woke up at 4 a.m. with an unusual sense of calm. Let me be crystal clear. I'd given Eleanor one final opportunity to come clean, take responsibility, and make amends. My terms were simple: full honesty about everything in front of the family, a formal repayment plan for my loan, and public acknowledgement of her lies about me. In return, I would help restructure their debts and potentially stop the foreclosure process. But, as I reviewed my documents one last time, my phone buzzed with a text from Eleanor. "I know what you're trying to do. If you humiliate me in front of the family, I'll make sure Mom and Dad never speak to you again. Your choice." That text changed everything. She wasn't coming to make amends. She was coming to wage war. Very well. Let me be crystal clear. I don't start fights, but I absolutely finish them. I arrived at our parents' house 30 minutes early. The living room was arranged with chairs in a semicircle, presumably by my mother, who believed this was a reconciliation meeting. The coffee table held a plate of Eleanor's favorite cookies and a family photo album. The naive optimism of it all almost made me laugh. I set up my laptop and a portable printer in the corner. Then I made a few final calls while I waited. One to my attorney confirming all documents were ready to be filed first thing Monday morning, another to the investigator for any last-minute updates, and a third to a contact at the tax authority regarding the anonymous fraud tip I'd submitted about Eleanor and Brock's creative accounting. Family members began arriving. My parents looked nervous but hopeful. Aunt Daphne brought her famous casserole, as if good food might solve generational betrayal. Various cousins trickled in, curiosity evident in their sidelong glances at me. Eleanor and Brock arrived last, her eyes red from crying, his jaw set in defiance. Eleanor immediately rushed to hug our mother, playing the role of distraught daughter perfectly. She avoided eye contact with me completely. Brock stood awkwardly by the door, checking his phone every few minutes. Everyone settled in, the room thick with anticipation. I began without preamble. No dramatic speeches, no accusations, just facts. First, I distributed copies of the original $175,000 loan agreement with Eleanor's signature, along with bank statements showing the transfer and the pitiful repayment history. Then came the printed social media posts showing their vacations, shopping sprees, and restaurant visits during the same periods they claimed they couldn't afford loan payments. Next, credit card statements showing thousands spent on luxury items while they cried poverty. The room grew progressively quieter with each document I handed out. Eleanor's face transitioned from fake distress to genuine panic. Brock stopped checking his phone and started sweating visibly. But I was just getting started. Next came documentation of the fraudulent credit cards opened in our parents' names. My mother gasped when she saw her signature had been forged on applications for cards with balances totaling over $30,000. Then evidence of the borrowed money from Aunt Daphne's accounts, over $15,000 that she had no idea was missing. The family's expression shifted from confused to horrified. Eleanor tried interrupting, claiming misunderstandings and mistakes. I simply continued, my voice remaining steady, emotionless. Let me be crystal clear. I wasn't angry anymore. I was executing justice. The breaking point came when I revealed the GoFundMe fraud, complete with medical documents showing the expenses had been covered by insurance, alongside photos of Eleanor and Brock on the cruise purchased with those donations. My cousin Tessa began crying softly when she realized she'd donated $500 to that fraudulent campaign. Eleanor suddenly stood up, shouting that I was trying to destroy her out of jealousy, that I had fabricated everything, that I was the manipulative one. She turned to our parents, tears streaming down her face, and begged them to believe her over me. The room fell silent. Everyone looked to our parents, whose devastated expressions said everything. My father slowly pulled out his wallet and removed a credit card statement he'd apparently brought with him, one he couldn't explain with charges in cities he'd never visited. He'd been suspicious for months, but couldn't bring himself to believe Eleanor would steal from him. Eleanor saw she was losing the room and changed tactics immediately. She broke down completely, admitting to some mistakes, but blaming financial pressure, Brock's spending habits, and even me for not helping them enough. She promised to fix everything if everyone could just forgive her this one time. Some family members wavered, their faces softening. The pull of family forgiveness runs deep. That's when I revealed the final set of documents, evidence of Brock's affair with Tatum, including hotel receipts paid with the fraudulent credit cards, text messages, and photographs. Not because I cared about their marriage, but because it completed the picture of their moral bankruptcy. Brock had been betraying Eleanor while they both betrayed everyone else. Brock denied nothing. He simply stood up and walked out. Eleanor watched him go, her expression one of genuine shock. Apparently, she hadn't known about Tatum. With the room in stunned silence, I laid out exactly what would happen next. 1. The foreclosure on their house would proceed. I owned their mortgage now through my investment company, and I was calling in the full balance due to fraud on the application. 2. All evidence of financial crimes had been submitted to the relevant authority. I had no control over what charges might follow, but tax fraud and credit card fraud were federal matters. 3. I was filing suit on Monday for the full balance of my loan, plus interest and legal fees. 4. Each family member they had stolen from would receive documentation to pursue their own restitution if they chose. 5. Eleanor and Brock were cut off from any future financial assistance from me permanently and irrevocably. I finished by addressing the text Eleanor had sent that morning, reading it aloud to the family. Her threat to turn our parents against me revealed who she truly was, better than anything else I could say. Eleanor's final desperate move was to turn to our parents and remind them that she had children who would suffer if they lost their home, that their own grandchildren would be homeless because of my vindictiveness. My mother, typically the peacemaker, surprised everyone. She told Eleanor that she and the children could move into their spare rooms temporarily, but Brock wasn't welcome, and there would be conditions: financial transparency, counseling, and making amends to everyone she had hurt. Eleanor seemed momentarily relieved, until my mother added that she and my father would be changing their will on Monday to establish a trust for the grandchildren that neither Eleanor nor Brock could access. My parents had finally seen through the manipulation. The meeting disintegrated shortly after. Family members departed in stunned groups, whispering among themselves. Eleanor sat alone on the couch, abandoned by her husband, no longer able to manipulate her parents, exposed to the entire family. As I packed up my documents, Eleanor approached me. Her eyes were cold now, all pretenses gone. She told me I had destroyed her life out of spite, that I would regret this, that family should forgive anything. I looked at her, really looked at her for the first time in years. She wasn't my sister anymore. She was just someone who had chosen to take advantage of everyone who loved her. I told her that she had destroyed her own life, one lie at a time, one betrayal at a time. I hadn't caused any of this. I had simply exposed it. The aftermath unfolded exactly as planned. The foreclosure proceeded rapidly due to the documented fraud. Eleanor and the children moved in with our parents temporarily, while Brock disappeared with Tatum to another state. The tax authorities opened an investigation into years of fraudulent returns. 3 banks initiated proceedings for the fraudulent loan application. Family members who had donated to the fake medical fundraiser reported it as fraud. Eleanor lost her new job when her employer discovered she had lied about her credentials. Her reputation in the family and community was destroyed by her own actions. Even her closest allies couldn't defend the mountains of evidence against her. 2 months later, I received an unexpected email from Eleanor. I expected more threats or pleading, but instead found something different. She admitted everything. She apologized for the damage she had caused. She claimed to be getting counseling and trying to rebuild her life honestly. She asked if there was any way we could eventually repair our relationship. I read it twice, searching for the manipulation angle. Then I deleted it, without responding. Let me be crystal clear about something. Some betrayals can't be undone. Some trust can't be rebuilt. Some people can only learn through devastating consequences. Eleanor made her choices every day for years. She chose to take my money, refuse to repay it, lie about me to the family, steal from our parents, and then threaten me when exposed. Those weren't mistakes. They were character. 6 months have passed now. I've heard through family that Eleanor is working a minimum wage job and living in a small apartment. Our parents still see the grandchildren regularly, but maintain strict financial boundaries with Eleanor. Brock filed for divorce and is contesting any responsibility for their shared debts. As for me, I've moved on. I'll likely never recover the $175,000, but that's not what this was about. It was about consequences, justice, and the freedom that comes from cutting toxic people out of your life, even when they're family. Some might call what I did excessive or cruel. I call it necessary. Eleanor declared war on me for years behind my back. I simply showed her what real warfare looks like. Let me be crystal clear one final time. I regret nothing.